Okay, so we have Michael Iriguzo here today, and he's actually a Zendrop Select client and also an incredibly successful and seasoned dropshipper himself. So we are so pumped to be able to pick his brain today and learn about his story to dropshipping success. So, Michael, why don't you introduce yourself and just give our listeners a little bit of background and who you are and how you came to where you are today?
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. Kennedy, thanks for having me on, by the way. It's an absolute honor.
Of course.
Yeah, so as you guys may well know, my name's Mike, Michael Iriguzo, but you can call me Mike or Michael, it does not matter. And I've been in the drop shipping game for over 3 years now. I believe I've stopped counting at this point. You stop counting at a certain point. So I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head exactly how long, but a little bit over 3 years now, right? And I it definitely wasn't an out the gates success story, right? It was a process of constant iteration. It was a process of constantly having to pick myself up by my bootstraps whenever I would find myself in a mental pit, let's say, or I would find myself in too much disappointment. However, I would say that after going through the valley, let's say, of the initial failures, it's been the business has been incredibly fruitful for me, incredibly fruitful to the point where I've generated multiple seven figures year over year uh, within the last 3 years alone. So it's something that I'm incredibly grateful for, and not just grateful for, but also keenly aware that I still have goals and I still have places that I need to be in. So I have zero plans of stopping right now, especially in this industry, because I've seen how far people can go as the bedrock of this industry, and I have no plans of stopping from there.
Yeah,
So yeah,
actually, the statistics are showing that the dropshipping industry in terms of revenue are growing at a 50 to 70% increase over the next 5 years with no sign of stopping. So it is good that you are staying with it for sure.
absolutely, absolutely, and wow, that's an incredible statistic, right? It just speaks to the vast amount of opportunity that there is, even for the newcomer, right? Not only for the newcomer, but even for the veteran, let's say, who may have at least been familiar with the industry for the last 3 years, for the last 2 years, 1 year, or even 5 years, and they may be thinking like, oh, maybe I've missed the boat already. Oh, is drop shipping dead? Right. That's the age old question that people have been asking since 2014, 2015, year over year over year, right? The question never goes away, but the opportunity is more abundant than ever. The opportunity is even better than what it was back in 2018 or 2016, for example, because of the tools that people keep coming out with that makes the process easier than ever to start, grow, and scale your own online business, right? So that's an incredibly shocking statistic, right? But it really speaks to the opportunity that's in this business.
Yeah, I remember I found that statistic while scrolling through TikTok as of all places. And it made me start to think, the amount of people who are saying drop shipping is dead. And I might raise some hairs on people's necks by saying this, but I personally believe that if you are one of the people who think that drop shipping is dead, you aren't trying hard enough or you're not working smart enough, in my opinion. I think our select users you included are a perfect example of the fact that even in today's economy and today's, way of doing business, it is still possible to succeed and create your own career through the concept of drop shipping. But I'm sure we'll uncover this as this podcast goes on. It's not easy work. It's not clicking a button and pressing fulfill and making your millions. There's a lot more that goes into it.
Sure, absolutely. One of the biggest things that goes into it, honestly, is it's two major things. One is the mindset to pick yourself up after you hit a failure. And not only is that the case in this business, but honestly, any business and nay, anything that's worth having requires having that stick with itness, right?
Of course.
I would say that's the number one thing, because the only thing that's really guaranteed in this business is failure. Let's be honest, right? It's how you navigate through those failures that makes the difference between those who succeed, those who stagnate, and those who fail, right? I remember when I started out, one of my advantages that I would say is, and the only reason I realized that this was an advantage was from noticing uh, comments, noticing moods from being in mastermind groups, noticing moods from being in forums, is that just from the beginning, I had an undeniable certainty that it's not an if this will work for me. It's a when. It's a matter of me just putting the amount of reps and sets in. And I knew that I was going to be able to do the work to hit that success. I've seen too many success stories online, too many screenshots, or I've gone through so many courses that I knew that this was real. And it just wasn't a matter of if this is for me. I just had that undeniable certainty, like, okay, say less. I just had to test enough products, et cetera, et cetera. All right, it's done, right? So once I had that certainty within myself, I never fell back to the point where I said, is this for me? I just fell back to the mindset that, A, I burnt the boat. So I'm not giving myself any other option. I'm not giving myself any other business that I'm going to get into. And it's just, so when I fell back on that, my only next option was, okay, let me change something up. Maybe it's another strategy or probably another product, right? That got me through that. So that's to encapsulate the number one thing that I see most people kind of have hangups with. And that's just a syndrome for anyone starting something new, right?
I would definitely
If
agree.
anyone's starting something new, they don't have as much certainty, or they may be just dipping their toes into the water into something. And the statistics are the case in any type of business, right? It can be in any finance business, insurance, real estate, et cetera, et cetera. Most people just drop off in the first year, or even anybody starting a diet, for goodness sake, right? Most people will just drop off,
It will drop off
right?
far before a year, and you're correct. Yeah, you just something gets too hard, or you have to change your ways of doing something, and you have to or change your mindset. For example, you just said your mindset is when this works, not if it works. And the amount of times that people start a new career, and in this case, drop shipping, is let me try this out because I heard that it's popular. Instead of actually creating the goal that this will be your new career. And I think that's a really important distinction, and probably, and I'm sure you could agree, is a huge reason for your success is your mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe that's the absolute bedrock of hitting success in this industry and so many industries. It's just getting through that an initial inertia, right? Of if this will work or dipping my toes into it, right? And then number two was the second most important thing. And this is a tactical thing. It's going through enough reps and sets to go through the failure. It's inundating yourself with so much activity that you're going through the reps and sets at a rapid pace so that inevitably you'll find that breakthrough product that honestly changes your life, right? I remember for myself, just by way of example, I went from, I think this was back in 2019. I forget exactly the month, but it was around Q4 of 2019, I believe. That I went from breaking even for months on end to losing a little bit of money, uh, breaking even, maybe spending, you know, around 10,000 to 15,000 a month. And I was breaking even. So it was kind of like a revolving door, right?
Mhm.
And when I found my first breakthrough product, I went from that level to literally hitting $500,000 in revenue per month at a 35% profit margin. So it's something like that that's once people understand how close they actually are to success once they find that breakthrough product, it can be absolutely mind-boggling. You actually change their life, right? So people, and that's really the scale of growth. It's never going to be a linear thing, right? It's going to be like loop-de-loops, or it's going to go from failure to failure to failure to failure to failure to breakneck hockey stick growth, right? So I'd say just to summarize, the number two thing was just going through enough reps and sets, right? and understanding that it's part of the process, right? Once people get more, uh, become more veterans in this industry, they realize that every product they test is just part of the process. And when people are beginners, every product they test is there's such an emotional attachment. You know what I mean? Such an emotional attachment to every product that they test, and every dollar that goes out of their bank account. They feel like it's like their lifeblood. You know what I mean? And they're just so emotionally attached. And every product failure, it's a gut punch. You know what I mean? It felt like a gut punch to me early on. I just didn't, because I didn't have enough reps and sets in, right? Um, so people have to switch that emotional framework from being so attached to every product that they test to understanding that it is part of the process. It is part of the learnings that you have to put in order to gain the data that so you can make better decisions. And maybe that better decision is just killing the product that you're testing and going on to the next, trying something new. Of course, have some discernment and try to learn from every product that you test, right? Don't, throw good money after bad money, right? However, you still have to realize that there is an implicitly a numbers game embedded into the process, and you have to treat it as that mostly. It's simply the process.
What was the first flop product you started testing? Just to go down memory lane.
Oh man. Okay. So there's a couple answers I can get to this. One, I'll give you the first product that I tried out, and I'll give you the first product that I really was attached to that I tried out. The first product that I tried out was in the Dragon Ball Z niche. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dragon Ball Z at all. It's like an old school cartoon that people
Yeah.
loved. There was back 3-4 years ago, there was a spin-off at the time called Dragon Ball Super or whatever. And I was thinking, like, because one of the courses, there's a course that I used to go through, was like, okay, what are you passionate about? You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I really like this show. And I know a lot of other people like this show. So let me try out something in this niche, right? So there was like a t-shirt that came out. I had a feeling that at least be trendy. So I just gave it a go in there, right? So I started testing out products there. Actually started getting a couple sales from that product. And that was my first sale. That was so encouraging. You have no idea. My first sale I got in like day 2 of testing the product, and I was just over the moon. I was just hooting and hollering over my office space, like, you got to be kidding me, because I knew that at least I had a suspicion, and everyone should know this in their hearts. I knew at the time, if I can get one sale, I can get 100 sales. If I can get 100 sales, I can get 1,000 sales. If I, you know what I mean, I can get 1,000 sales, I can get 10,000, because I knew with this way this business works, it's literally just rinsing and repeating what works. So since I got that first sale, I was like, oh my goodness, let's go. It's game time. This works. It's over, right? It wasn't the case with this product, of course, because I just could never get it to work. And I got my Shopify payments thing shut down because, like, after a couple of days using this product, so even still to this day, I don't use Shopify payments because they shut me down for that first product because there's like a copyright thing. And I had no idea. There's like a copyright infringement thing, like you can't do branded this or that. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I just found some supplier off of AliExpress who was selling this product. It was crazy. So I ended up dying down. I ended up killing that and finding something else, right? But the first product that I really had actually, this is the first and the last product that I had emotional attachment to was sometime a month afterwards. It was this like electric toothbrush kind of thing. It was like this hands-free toothbrush, right? And I was like, man, this product looks so sweet. I can make a brand off of it. I know someone else is really successful in it, is getting a lot of views. So let me just make my whole brand around it. So I created a whole new website, spent, gosh, probably weeks editing the website to make sure that it's as decked out as possible, branded up, had all these supplemental products to go along with it, and had all these custom videos that I built myself from scratch. And that whole process took me weeks. And I spent a couple other weeks testing the product on Facebook ads. And I never could get it to like just bust through to the level that I wanted to. I must have spent $3,000 on that product alone just starting out, and must have lost 2,500 of that 300 of that 3,000. And what I realized that within that period of time is the concept of opportunity cost. Meaning, I spent so much time, so much emotional resources on this one product. And within that same period of time, I could have used those same amount of funds to test 20 to 30 other products, right? That could have yielded a better return on investment, let alone just losing money, right? So it really made me realize the concept of opportunity cost, and realizing that, you know what, I have no business being emotionally caught up just because my mind told me that this is definitely going to work, right? So even to this day, when I'm testing products, even if it's a product that I have an affinity with, because I have an affinity to health and wellness based products specifically, even the products that I have a huge affinity with, it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what the market thinks. And you won't realize what the market thinks until you test out the product. So I'm just going to let the market do the decision making for me, instead of my emotional attachments to the products make the decision making for me, right? So it was really an eye opening lesson. So that's something that I hope people can take away from this: is don't get emotionally attached to any product. You know what I mean? You have to realize that sometimes your baby's ugly, you know what I mean? And be able to wipe your hands clean off of that and just move on, right? So that was a very character building experience for me at the time.
I guess it poses the question, and I think you answered it, but I'd love for you to talk about it more. What comes
Sure.
first, the product or the brand? Right? I think we just discussed
Mhm.
that new drop shippers love to develop this brand in their minds because it's what keeps them passionate about what they're spending so many hours doing, which is important.
Mhm.
But as you just said, you need the market to tell you what's doing well right now. And if you put all of
Mhm.
your energy into a brand that you haven't tested with different audiences, it's a lost cause. So how did you personally go through that process of, because obviously your current brand is not Dragon Ball Z. So you did something along
Right.
the ways a way to create the brand that you have, and I'll let you talk about it in a second. So where did you kind of start deciding to develop branding as you were scaling?
Absolutely, that's such a great question. Just to piggyback a little bit of my last answer, I don't believe people should necessarily start out with a brand in mind. They can start out with a niche in mind if they want to, because there's so many different products within a particular niche, provided that your niche is big enough. Maybe it's in health and wellness, or maybe it's in fitness, or maybe it's in kitchenware, or maybe it's in XYZ, right? You can start out with a niche. However, I personally like starting out with a general store, uh, and from that general store, testing a wide array of products so I can let the brand come to me. Meaning that once I'm testing so many different products, testing 10 to 20 different products, and I'm getting more valuable data, you can choose niches that you like only if those niches that you like make you more likely to take the action needed to go through the reps and sets to succeed. You can choose niches if you like, but if you don't have an affinity to a certain niche, I recommend starting out with the general store. And while you're getting that data, once you start seeing the positive progress, meaning once you're profitable from the product that you're testing, you can then build a niche and a brand around that product. Because also, let me tell you up front as well, for all the beginners that's watching this, you really don't need your store. You do not need your store to be all buttoned up and niched out for it to be profitable. It can start out with a general store with a very basic page, making sure it's very simple, and still testing it out, and the market will still decide whether this is worth you testing even more. You can be very profitable starting out with a very general store and a very simple product page. Don't have to oversaturate it with all these, I don't know, fake scarcity tactics or all these bells, whistles, and buttons or whatnot just to confuse people. Start it out. Make your store, your business very simple, right? And it's a blank canvas, let's say, that you can use to build your future niche and future brand around. Because you can start out being very profitable with a very simple concept, with a very simple product. Obviously follow direct response marketing principles, but you don't have to go out of your way, right? And then you can be profitable at first, starting out from there. And then from there, you build. Then from there, you build and start beautifying and start making a brand around that success that you see. So that's what I certainly recommend for the process of going from product to brand instead of brand to product, right? Or else you may risk spending a lot more time, a lot more resources than you otherwise would have um, going that route.
How did that process look like for your business personally? When did you kind of have the bells and whistles go off that you had landed on your niche that was winning?
Absolutely. So for me, it was after the first month. It was after the first month, and it was actually, and I still follow this process to this day, where I don't consider my success as, oh, here's this guy who's done multiple seven figures every single year in sales. I think of it from a day by day perspective of, okay, am I profitable today? Am I profitable this week? How's the metrics looking this week? So it helps me stay very grounded, and it helps me use that groundedness to be able to make the best decision from there, right? So basically, after the first month, I realized that this product was profitable enough for at least keep the ball going, right? I then took a look at, okay, what product is this in? What niche is this product in? For me, that was in the health and wellness space. Okay, what other products can be used to be a supplement for this main product, right? And I then used those products and I built those as listings on my store. And from there, I went to do things such as uh, getting an email marketing guy to handle my email flows. And from there, I went to talk to, okay, let me look at private suppliers to get this product in bulk so I can take it to the US to potentially reduce, you know, shipping times and to reduce the average cost per product, right? So from there, it was a day by day and week by week process of understanding what I can do next to brandify my store. And also from there, I took a look at competitors to see what are these competitors doing? What are bigger box competitors doing within my space? Right. So I took it as a step by step process, and that really helped me figure out what to do next. As it reminds me of a quote by Rumi. He says, "Walk on the path, and the path emerges." Right. So it was a process that I took to heart. It made me realize and understand that you don't have to have everything figured out from day one. You know what I mean? You should not have everything figured out from day one. You don't feel the need to have this huge action plan for how you're going to build your store. As you walk on the path will emerge. As you build your business, you will understand the next steps needed to build your business from there. Keep that in mind. You will be able to figure it out as you go along. And then you'll look back and you'll say, oh, wow, I really did build this Venomoth as a business, and I'm having all these people reaching out to me for branding deals or different type of opportunities that I would not have even envisioned when I started out. So people don't need to overcomplicate that process. Start where you're currently at and build from there.
What is one thing that you would tell baby dropshipper Mike if you could go back in time and tell him based on all of the experiences you've had thus far?
Absolutely. One thing that I would tell myself is don't get too caught up on design on your store and work on the needle moving activities. Work on the activities that'll actually move the needle for your business. Because there's so many things that one can work on in their business, and it makes people think that they're making progress. In reality, all they're doing is just a flurry of activity, right? There's a difference between activity and actual progress. There's a Pareto principle where 80% of the results that you get will come from 20% of the actions that you take. So it's realizing that the 20% of the actions that move the other 80% is testing products, right? So I would have told myself a lot earlier is that once you have a basic layout, a basic design that you think is clean and simple enough, the most important thing, bar none, is testing products. It's not the Facebook ads ninja strategy that'll be the thing that'll take your C plus product to an A minus. It is not the Shopify theme that you're using that'll take your C product to an A product. It is literally testing products. Things that one of the hidden things that a lot of high performance Facebook ad agencies, YouTube ad agencies will tell you is that in reality, the great offers, they scale very easily from the jump. They scale very easily in the first week, right? And from there, we just essentially do the management. It's bad offers that we have to iterate and try to make it work and try to do all the work and research and rebrandify the entire product, the offer. That's the tough part. If it's a good offer, in this case, if it's a good product, that'll actually scale surprisingly easier from the jump than you think. And you might think it's, oh, maybe people may think it's like, oh man, it's the audiences. Maybe it's the audiences. Oh, it's the Facebook pixel. It's the ad account. Maybe I gotta just switch ad accounts. No, that's not necessarily the case, right? The process that you must control, that I should have told myself to control a lot sooner than I actually did, is that once you have that simple canvas, that simple template, that simple layout that you think is nice and clean and cool, testing products, test more products at a faster rate. Because when I didn't do that, I was working on so many other things around the e-commerce space. It made me think I was getting disappointed because it made me think that I was doing more work or doing more activity than I actually was, right? Uh, People might be working on 10 different things for their store in a week, but they've only tested one product that week. And then they look back at the end of the week and they're so disappointed, like, oh, man, I did so much work, uh, but I'm not getting the results, right? And then I may go back and ask them, like, well, how many products did you test the last 2 weeks? One. When did you start testing that product? A month ago. And I'm like, wait, are you kidding me? So it's understanding that there is a minute amount of activities that will really help you move the needle when you're starting out in drop shipping. And that is, in my opinion, product testing. Far and away the most important thing.
Well, so Mike, you've been in the game for what, about 3 years now, and you came to Zendrop about a year and a half ago, I believe you said, something around
Yeah.
those lines. How did that process look for you about transitioning your business or fulfillment to Zendrop Select? And how has that really impacted your business thus far?
Absolutely. So the impetus that made me want to look into Zendrop Select, was because it was out of pain. And the pain was me. I'll definitely elucidate this more, but the pain was me getting screwed over by a Chinese supplier. This was actually around the beginning of COVID. Yeah, it was actually around the beginning of COVID, which was the impetus for me to want to change. And essentially, what happened was I realized, and I didn't realize this until months after the fact, but I realized that around the beginning of last year, my Chinese supplier that I worked with, they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in orders in transit, uh, which led up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in refunds and chargebacks that we had to process for our customers, because I believe in making the best customer service experience that I possibly can. And that also means owning up to mistakes and being upfront with customers on that, right? And if they're disappointed enough, or if it's been so many months after we said in our refund policy that, yeah, we're going to return these products, right? So unfortunately, the suppliers that I work with, they didn't believe in taking that same amount of responsibility. So they decided to refund me absolutely zero of the products that they lost that I paid for in advance. So that impetus for me was like, wow, you guys are being penny wise and pound foolish, because you're really going to lose all this business that we've done because you're saying it's not your fault. So for that reason, I decided to. There's a funny quote like, once your money goes to China, it doesn't leave China, right? So I essentially it made me decide to look at other options. So I ended up talking with Jared and Jared's team, and they told me about how the Zendrop process worked, right? And how they take responsibility for like lost orders, how they will give you white glove service. They'll set you up with a team that can link with your customer service team, so it's hands off for you. And I really was enthused, and it really raised my eyebrows with those benefits that they propose, right? So I decided to link up with the Zendrop Select team. I must have been one of their first Zendrop Select members. However, that process since that point, it's just been better, and it's just gotten better and better since then. They've not just delivered on what they said that they would, they over delivered. Like, you guys have over delivered, and honestly, you guys are continuing to over deliver. So it it shocks me, it surprises me, it delights me, right? It's one of those things that makes me incredibly enthused to link up with Zendrop, and happy to talk to anybody else who's in the space of what kind of supplier should I use. Should I use AliExpress starting out? Even if you're just starting out, don't use AliExpress, don't use Uberlo, man. Use Zendrop, man, because it makes it so much easier, so much more convenient. The pricing is so competitive, and the shipping is so much better, just flat out, that I think that Zendrop is an all-encompassing solution for the beginner to the advanced business owner alike.
When it comes to scaling your stores and scaling your businesses, which is
Hmm.
obviously one of the reasons you looked to Zendrop, is because you wanted to actively continue to scale from a
Right.
hands-off perspective. What are you looking for, or what are you putting emphasis on in terms of your business? And follow up, how is Zendrop helping contribute to that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I continuously look for in my business, at least when it comes to testing products, is I look for products that have a wow factor. I actually have a very specific standard operations of procedures when I'm looking at testing products. I do have a rep, a VA that does that process for me. However, I look for products that, first and foremost, I won't get into the full standard operations procedures because it's a little bit tedious. However, the first thing I think is, this like a wow product? And wow doesn't necessarily mean I look at it and I literally go wow. It could be one of those things where I look at it and it makes me raise my eyebrows, like, oh wow, like oh, what's this? This is fascinating. This is unique. There would be products before when I used to test that would have zero wow factor. It'd be so basic, so simple in hindsight, right? But just because you have that wow factor, that wow inclination of a product, doesn't mean it'll be successful. But it's one of those guiding lights that helps me find a higher likelihood of testing products and testing success, right? Where I start shifting my focus after I have a product that starts to scale and I have reason to believe that I can grow this bigger and better, is I start looking up things such as not only Facebook ads optimization, that's very important, but I also look into back end a lot. Back end is a huge lever that is undervalued in the drop shipping space, even those who may be more professional. And the reason that that's the case is that what most people will try to do is try to find some ninja Facebook hack to increase their conversion rates from 2% to 4%, or reduce their cost per click from $1 to 50 cents. When once you reach a certain point of scale and you realize the niche that you're in has a certain amount of inventory and has so much competition, your cost per click is not fixed. It's definitely not fixed. There's room for optimization, but not as much room for optimization as one might hope, right? However, where there is so much more of an abundant opportunity is to increase average order value.
Hmm.
It's actually easier to increase average order value from $50 to $100, let's say, than it is to reduce your cost per click on Facebook from $1 to 50 cents. Or if you're really looking for $1 to 50 cents, I'll give you an easy one. Go to Pakistan and try to run traffic there. You'll get your low cost per click, right? But it may not be as good as you might think. However, it's a lot easier to increase the average order value of a customer, to increase the lifetime value of a customer back end through more robust upsell funnels, right? Post purchase upsell funnels. Completely recommend something like that, right? Cross sells, email flows back end. So those are some of the main things that I look into. Those are some of my main focuses after I sell them that initial product, because when people bring it in, you already have the customer. You've already earned the customer's trust enough to buy a product. And if they bought a product, they gave you money in some type of degree, you have no idea the Pandora's box that you've unlocked. They are so much more likely to buy from you again, especially short term, if they bought something from you in the beginning. And that's something, that's an avenue that helps sustain long term growth. There are literally products that I have launched in 2019 that I am still running today, and that is because of my back end. I've made it so robust through post purchase upsells, email flows, and customer service. Customer service. I made my customer service more robust. Those are some things that I look for uh, after I started to do the scaling, because I realized that customer service is a lot more important than people like to admit. It's nothing that people need to focus on when they're starting out. I don't recommend people focus on that starting out. There's no need to. I mean, you don't have any customers to tend to, right? However, once you start getting a certain flow of customers week over week, month over month, you not only want to make sure you delegate that, but you want to make sure that you set it up so they your reps or yourself, when you're starting out, responds to the customers with questions or concerns as soon as possible. So I have things such as live chat in my store. I have things such as text messaging where people can text my company back and forth. I have phone support where customers can call in if they have questions about their order. And people will be so surprised on how many times people would call in to place an order because they may not have uh, placed an order with your company if your phone number wasn't there. I have a shocking amount of orders from people who place phone calls and just end up placing an order, right? So it's getting those systems put in place to create a more holistic experience for customers to increase the likelihood of customer satisfaction, right? There's other things that I focus on as well. However, those are some of the main things that I focus on immediately after I realize something has potential.
That is a really good point. We actually had a really great episode with Brad Leffler, our COO, all about customer service. And he said a lot of similar things to what you just said right now, which is it's very important, not what you need to focus on at the beginning, but it can quite literally make or break the success of your store if you do not button up on customer service as you start to scale.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so important. It's so important. And making sure that business owners focus on customer service after they have hit a sufficient amount of scale, it's something that's incredibly gratifying, because you're doing right by your customers. And it's one of the most gratifying aspects of the dropshipping space. And not only dropshipping space, but business in general, is understanding that you're doing anything that you can just to do right by your customers, man. Like, do what you say you will. And if you can make their day a little bit better by responding to them quickly, for example, it lowers their guard and makes them think, oh, thank goodness I have a legitimate company, instead of another scammer who took my money and ran away and has terrible customer service, right?
So
It,
true.
it, it's just it makes you feel good knowing that you're doing right by your people. It's just a good life principle in general. Do right by your people, man.
So, what is next for you in business? What are you working on currently, and what are your goals right now?
Absolutely. Great question. So I have a few initiatives that I'm working on. One is angel investing. I've built up a sufficient amount of cash flow through the drop shipping business that I have funds that I can use for investments. And angel investing is one of the avenues that I'm interested in. I just think it's fascinating to be a part of tip companies that or entrepreneurs that are building uh, companies with tip of spear technologies that is not in my wheelhouse, but I just think it's really fascinating or really cool. So I love the aspect of being a part of that. So angel investing is something that I'm doing right now. I'm still very much in the e-commerce space for sure. Uh, I'm getting big into supplements as well. Supplements is a huge initiative that I'm currently in this quarter, because there's so much opportunity in the space. It's a great avenue to build lifetime value, recurring revenue, for one, and that's a big initiative that's in my e-commerce companies just across the board. Like, how can I build systems or build the process or build an offer that is sustainable for recurring revenue, right? Because costs are rising when it comes to Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. There's more opportunity than there ever was. However, Facebook, more business owners are getting into the space because there's more opportunity than there ever was. So if there's rising costs, you want something to offset that. One thing that is very reliable is building something that has recurring revenue, whether that's a subscription box or whether that is a product that is conducive for reuse month over month, right? So those are some of my main initiatives that I'm working on right now.
Very exciting.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy to have you as part of the Zendrop family. And I got a lot of value out of hearing your story, and I'm sure that our listeners did as well. Tell our listeners where they can find you on social media or anywhere they can follow you.
Absolutely. So they can follow me on by searching up Michael Aririguzo, right? Hopefully, how you spell Aririguzo somewhere in the show notes, right? On Facebook or Instagram, right? They can feel free to reach out to me if they have a question on anything regarding business mindset, drop shipping, and specifically. I don't have a course to sell you, right? I'm not one of those gurus. I'd rather be a player in the game. For me, I'd rather be a Michael Jordan reaching for breaking records than I am being a coach. Uh, that's just my inclination, right? So that's where I'm currently at right now. So sorry, guys, I don't have a course for you or a private group, but reach out to me. I also live in Scottsdale, Arizona. So if you're in the area, let me know, right? But yeah, that's where you can find me, man.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and just thank you for being part of the Zendrop family.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was an absolutely delightful experience. I do appreciate that.